Well done for making it through Psalm 119. And we've come to Psalm 120. Psalm 120 is the first of the so-called Psalms of Ascent. Psalms of Ascent because they were psalms that were sung by pilgrims who were travelling to Jerusalem for one of the 3 yearly festivals. And it's called Psalm of Ascent because they were walking uphill. They were going up to Jerusalem, up to Mount Zion. And they were sung to encourage each other on that journey. I mean, today we would have marching songs, or songs that would be sung by perhaps soldiers travelling great distances. Well, so these were sung to encourage them physically on the journey, but to encourage their souls as well. And Psalm 120 is the first of these, and it is in fact the reverse of many of the Psalms. Usually in the Psalms we see the psalmist recounting their distress and their trouble, and then as they work through the psalm, and then it ends on this note of confidence of their trusting in God to act. Whereas Psalm 120 is the other way around. It starts with that affirmation of trust. So verses 1 and 2, I call on the Lord in my distress, and he answers me. Save me, Lord, from lying lips and from deceitful tongues. We see that he's starting with his confidence. He is confident that God hears and God answers. He hears his cry and he answers those cries of distress in bringing rescue. And the effect of starting with this note of confidence is that confidence stays in our minds as we read through the rest of the psalm. What is it? His particular situation was the tongues, deceitful tongues of enemies. There were people speaking lies, people who were seeking to harm him, particularly with their tongues. But do we see how the psalmist is confident is that God will deliver him from them by defeating his enemies? And we just look at the last verse there, though. The psalmist says, I speak for peace, but I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. You see, he's living amongst people who are hostile to him. And yet, he has this confidence in God throughout. And he trusts that God will bring defeat on these enemies. Verse 4 is quite a vivid picture, isn't it? It says, he will punish you with a warrior's sharp arrows, and with burning coals of the broom brush. The 2 vivid pictures there, arrows and burning coals. No, God is going to defeat these enemies. But the confidence there is for us as well. In one sense, we are 2 pilgrims on the way to God's city. We are pilgrims on our way to heaven and the new creation. And psalms like this give us confidence, and no matter what the situation for you, it may well not be lying, deceitful tongues of enemies. But the confidence for us remains that God hears and God answers. So do we trust him in that? Do we go to him in that? No matter what the situation is for us, we can. And he is faithful. He is the same God today who saves his people. Look to him.